Many thanks for dialing in, and many thanks for being in that event here called the H2 Nodes. We are very happy that hydrogen becomes a quite interesting alternative also in the Baltic states, in the Baltic regions. And this final event on H2 Nodes is about the evolution of a European hydrogen refueling station network on the North Sea Baltic Corridor. Now, we are quite happy as Hydrogen Europe, and my name is Yorgos Chatzimarkakis. I am the CEO of this European association, which in the meanwhile comprises 320 members from all over Europe and from all parts of the hydrogen value chain, from the production of hydrogen, and also people talk about different colors of hydrogen. We don't like that very much, but we talk of different pathways to produce hydrogen in its decarbonized way, so to clean and to green the molecule. But we have also a lot of members who do the transport of the hydrogen, so how to get hydrogen from one place of production to the place of use. And then we have this different end users, the users in the heating sector, in the energy sector, in industry, because hydrogen is also a chemical feedstock, and finally also in mobility. And that mobility part that possibly in most of the minds of people is the starting point, was a very important niche in the very beginning. But to be honest, the real push came through the energy system and also through the industrial users who can decarbonize hydrogen. Let me say that the energy system is led by a very prominent Estonian politician. It's Kadri Simson. She is the minister, she was minister. She's the commissioner on energy in Brussels, in the European Commission. And she has a very, very important impact on the whole debate of hydrogen. So the Baltic contribution to this is very, very high. And we now see that out of the energy system, again, the mobility system is getting much more ground, not only on the street and on rail, but also in harbors, in ports, and in maritime applications, not to mention the aviation applications. We see that not only reflected in projects, like also this project that we will be talking about today, but we see it also reflected in legislation. So the big package, the so-called European Green Deal package, which got the name Fit for 55, so for the decarbonization of, or for reduction of 55% of CO2 emissions. It's 12 different legislative proposals, 3,000 pages with laws and more than 1,000 mentionings of hydrogen. One of these 12 packages is called the AFIR, so the Alternative Fuels Infrastructure Regulation. And this says that as of 2030, it will be obligatory for member states of the European Union to have hydrogen refueling stations installed. Every 150 kilometers, we might end up with every 100 kilometers. What do I want to say? These projects, like the ones you are talking about here, these projects are absolutely key and crucial as pilots, because they will be guiding the way towards more hydrogen in our mobility sector and in our economy. Don't get us wrong. We don't want to replace the battery electric. We want to replace fossil. That's true. But we want to do it in a close cooperation with electrical solutions and with battery electric solutions, especially. For the case of Riga and for the case of Latvia, we see that there will be good uses of trolley buses, hydrogen trolley buses in Latvia. And also there will be very soon the development of the first hydrogen refueling stations. I was born in a country in Germany where at the moment there are 95 refueling stations. So I'm quite acquainted to this. and you will see how comfortable and how nice it is to use it and to be on that. So we see that hydrogen has arrived all over Europe. Also, this is extremely important that this is not just a Dutch technology because the Netherlands are front runners, or a Portuguese thing because Portugal, with regards also to the use of renewable energy for hydrogen, is one of the front runners. No, we want this to be a global thing, and Europe as the hub that is propelling all this, and all over the whole continent. And that is why I'm very happy and also proud to now give the floor as a moderator of this event to I give the floor to Rigas Satiksme, to Andris Lubans, the board member in Riga, who will now present the first project. And later on, you will see my good old friend Aivars Starikovs, who will moderate today's session. He is a board member of Hydrogen Europe. For many years, he represents the Latvian Hydrogen Association. And to be crystal clear, I'm absolutely sure that without Aivars' contribution, we would be behind schedule when it comes to hydrogen all over Europe, and especially in the Baltic region. I would now like to give the floor to Andris to take over.
Thank you, Jorgo. So my name is Andris Lubans, and I am representing a public transport company from Latvia, Riga Satiksme. On behalf of the H2Nodes project, in our capacity as a coordinator of this project, I would like to welcome everyone to this webinar, which brings us to the final stage of the project. H2Node is a study and a real-life pilot project funded under the CEF program. It contributes to deployment of alternative fuels infrastructure in the European Union on the North Sea Baltic Corridor. The main objective of H2Nodes project was to understand all necessary technical, economic, and customer-related requirements for the hydrogen value chain, particularly looking at production, distribution, and demand, as well as mobilizing local and regional stakeholders to drive the business case. In addition, in real-life development of hydrogen refueling infrastructure and introduction of hydrogen as fuel in public transport was proposed. As you can see, there are 3 member states involved: the Netherlands, Estonia, and Latvia, with relevant activities planned in Riga, Arnhem, and Pärnu. During the launching phase of this project in 2014, we all understood the need to accelerate the movement towards clean transport and finding a solution to mitigate an impact on climate. And so the research and the development of the project leading to H2Nodes began. Officially, the grant agreement with CINEA was signed in 2016, and so in 2021, this project draws to a close. In Riga specifically, a technical solution was needed to support the shift toward zero-emission solutions for public transport operation, and our hydrogen trolley buses have delivered on this. As a representative of Riga Satiksme, I would like to welcome all participants to this webinar. And I would also like to introduce project partners involved and thank them for their contributions. The group involved stakeholders from private and public entities. So, in Latvia, public transport operator Riga Satiksme, conducting the trial in Riga. Private company Trezors Limited, conducting the studies on the eastern part of the corridor. In Estonia, private company Parox Energy, conducting the planning work and boosting demand for hydrogen projects in Estonia. In the Netherlands, Arnhem municipality and the province of Gelderland, supporting activities both financially and boosting demand. The Ministry of Infrastructure and Water Management of the Netherlands, supporting activities both financially and by boosting demand, but also conducting studies on the western part of the corridor with subcontractors. Private company Total Energies, previously Pit Point, as an owner and operation of the hydrogen refueling stations. So throughout the entire project, H2Nodes was supported by external subcontractors, including the team from Element Energy, who supported the overall delivery of the project. The H2Nodes has been a flagship project for Riga Satiksme and for the North Sea Baltic Corridor. It laid the foundation of our knowledge of hydrogen mobility, something we will continue to explore in coming years. And finally, I would like to thank CINEA and the European Commission for the funding and support that has allowed all partners to complete H2Nodes project. And now I would like to give floor to Richard Ferrer, the head of innovation and alternative fuel sector at CINEA. Richard, floor now is yours.
Yes, thanks, Andres. Hi, everybody. Well, I'm very pleased to be here with you today. Really, it's one of the first hydrogen project which is delivering actually on the ground. And this project is not it's a particular one. It's not a usual project. It's really how a European project should be, should look like. I mean, because you mentioned all the partners just before, but indeed you have gathered a partnership with public and private operators. You have a European dimension. You are covering 3 member states along the North Sea Baltic corridor. So all of this is already an extremely good start, and it's exactly the type of project that we are expecting actually to deploy hydrogen along the TEN-T corridors for transport, of course, but it's based, of course, on a more global ecosystem. And apart from all these first assets, you all have a front-runner state of mind. As you said, it was a pilot. You started in 2014 when it was really still in its infancy. Hydrogen was not so high in the agenda at that time as it is now. So it was really a front-runner spirit to start deploying this while the market was not yet there. We all know about the urgency to address climate change issues, sorry. But thanks to you, really reducing transport emission, it's something which is happening now. It's not, we are not talking about the future, we're really talking about the actual situation. So it's happening now. Infrastructure has been open in the Netherlands, in Latvia, coming to Estonia soon, I hope. So this is really something which is on the ground, which is operational. And in addition, you do this, you mentioned public transport, you do this in urban and suburban areas. I mean, it's really where we need it. Of course, long distance is our main topic as well at CINEA, the Climate, Infrastructure and Environment Executive Agency of the European Commission. Long distance is key, but tackling climate change issues at urban area places where air quality is an issue, noise is an issue, congestion is an issue, and doing it with public transport authorities and with private operators, it's really something which impacts daily citizen life. So all these aspects really, I'm extremely pleased to be with you today because it really corresponds to what we are expecting. You know, probably you know the story, but it was told by someone, I mean, named Pierre Rabhi, who passed away, an environmentalist last week, actually. And he was telling a story of this little bird, you know, the humming bird, the colibri, which sees a fire in the forest, and then he takes some water with his beak, and he's spitting some drops on the fire and going back and forth, doing this many times to try to put out the fire. And then the other animals looking at him, laughing, saying, you know what, you're so small with some drops. Do you really intend to extinguish this fire? And then this little bird says, yeah, I know very well I cannot do it myself, but I do my share. And really understand me well, I'm not saying that today it's a drop, it's a major accomplishment, but you are doing your share in this European deployment of alternative fuel. And this has to be really underlined, because you are, by this project, participating to the European Green Deal. And this is our target. This is exactly what we want to support in the future. We have done a bit, if we can move to the next slide, we have done a bit already in the past. You can see just in a nutshell some figures about how we have supported alternative fuel in the past. This covers all the fuels, of course. Hydrogen has ramped up mostly in the last years, in the last 2-3 years. But you can see that we have financed more than 150 hydrogen stations in Europe. We have financed some electrolyzers for green hydrogen production. But you can see as well that 45% of the actions on hydrogen in number are touching upon the North Sea Baltic Corridor. So I'm not saying that it's the biggest share of the budget which has been given, but in terms of action, North Sea Baltic Corridor states are involved in most of almost half of the hydrogen projects that we have supported. It's a very good sign, I think, for the future. On the next slide, maybe talking about the future, what we want to support as from now is zero emission transport, mostly. You refer to AFIR, the future regulation. In line with the future regulation, we have AFIF, which is the Alternative Fuel Infrastructure Facility. And we are focusing not exclusively, but almost on zero emission transport, electricity, bien sûr, always, of course, electromobility, but as well, hydrogen is high on the agenda. You see the envelope, globally 1.5 billion euro up to December 23 are already available. And regarding hydrogen, if we go to the next slide, and final one, you can see what is our target. Hydrogen refueling stations, 700, 350 bars for all types of users. Public transport is still one of the priority, of course, but light-duty vehicles, heavy-duty vehicles for long distance is something we want to support in terms of freight transport. Inland waterway, maritime vessels, we mostly focused on road in the previous programming period. We would like to do more on the waterborne transport side, and for railways as well. We do not finance anymore, unfortunately, directly vehicles, except vessels for waterborne transport. So we do not finance buses or trolley buses, unfortunately, anymore, but it's a combination that has to be found, of course, with other funds, with EU Invest in particular, but as well with other funds that can be made available for operators. Just to very little information on the fact that we could support as well as a synergetic element, green hydrogen production in the projects that we intend to select in the near future. The call is open. You can see that AFIF puts hydrogen high on the agenda in terms of objective for the Green Deal on the side of the European Commission and the European Union in general. You have heard recently as well in the Hydrogen Week 21, you heard our President Ursula von der Leyen announcing the creation of a clean hydrogen partnership. You refer to AFIR, so you see that we have instruments and operators in place to support the future developments that you may lead, that you may propose. So we are ready to support new projects in the near future to head towards zero emission. a zero-emission transport system in Europe. It's not only for transport, it's a full ecosystem that we want to support, of course, but with AFIF, at least, we can tackle the issue regarding hydrogen for transport. So thank you really again for inviting me today and for your great contribution to decarbonization of transport in Europe.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Richard, for very good words and for support that CINEA has been providing all over the project period. So thanks once again to the, let's say, impression speeches. Jorgo, thanks. Thank you, Andris. So maybe as long as we are a bit out of the schedule, I would like to invite panelists to be ready to speak. For participants of the event, what I would like to just remind, so if you have already during the presentation some of the questions, please do not hesitate, use questions and ask questions and answers tool. So please provide your answers and questions, and panelists will try during the speeches, try to answer. But anyway, at the end of the event, we will have a dedicated time for question and answers session. So therefore, I would like to invite Didzis Stepe, who is representing Riga Satiksme. He is head of project management team. Didzis, let's dig to the Riga case study. So the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ivars. Good day to all and greetings from Riga. I would like to start my presentation with a short video about the results of our project, and then after that I would like to give a small presentation how we came to that. So please show the video.
Ūdeņraža ražošanas, uzpildes un uzglabāšanas stacija Rīgā uzsāka darbību 2020. Gada sākumā un ir pirmā šāda stacija Baltijā. Tas ir unikāls pilotprojekts, kura mērķis ir pārbaudīt ūdeņraža staciju veiktspēju un uzsākt tīkla izveidošanu Ziemeļjūras, Baltijas jūras, Eiropas transporta koridorā. Stacijas būvniecība norisinās startautiskā projekta H2Nodes ietvaros, kuru īsteno 7 partneri 3 Eiropas Savienības dalībvalstīs. Projekta pamatā ir Eiropas komisijas direktīva par transporta atkarības mazināšanu no fosilējiem energoresursiem un alternatīvo degvielu infrastruktūras izveidošanu. Rīgas satiksme projekta izmaksas aptuveni 16,1 miljonus eiro, no kuriem 50% līdzfinansē Eiropas Savienība. Projekta galvenais mērķis ir veicināt bezizmešu transporta līdzekļu izmantošanu Eiropā, rezultātā mazinot transporta radīto piesārņojumu un siltumnīca efekta gāzu emisiju. Izmantojot ūdeņradi, transporta līdzekļi nerada kaitīgas izplūdes, jo ūdens tvaiki ir to vienīgais blakus produkts. Ūdeņraža priekšrocība ir arī ievērojami samazinātas trokšņa emisijas. Stacija ļauj saražot 300 ūdeņraža kilogramus dienā. Ar šo var uzpildīt 10 trolejbusus, 10 autobusus un 5 vieglās mašīnas. Savukārt uzglabāt stacijā var 600 kilogramus ūdeņraža. Projekta ietvaros ir saņemti 10 ar ūdeņradi darbinām trolejbusi. Rīgai saražotie ūdeņraža trolejbusi ir pirmie šāda veida transporta līdzekļi pasaulē.
Paldies Eiropas klimata investīciju un vides aģentūrai par līdzšinējo sadarbību un ceram uz veiksmīgu sadarbību arī nākotnē, jaunu ūdeņraža autobusu iegādē un esošās ūdeņraža stacijas pilnvērtīgas noslodzes nodrošināšanā.
Brīžos, kad trolejbus nav pieslēgts kontakttīklam, rezerves vilces jauda ir nodrošināta nevis ar dīzeļmotoru, bet ar no ūdeņraža iegūto elektrību. Trolejbus uzpilde notiek nakts laikā. Viena trolejbus uzpilde aizņem līdz 7 minūtēm. Izbraucot no uzpildes stacijas ar ūdeņradi, trolejbus pieslēdz kontakttīklam, bet maršruta posmā, kurš nav nodrošināts ar kontakttīklu, brauc ar ūdeņradi. Stacija ir pieejama ne tikai sabiedriskā transporta uzpildē, bet arī publiskai lietošanai ikvienam interesantam.
Yes, and as this is the case study, I would like to begin with short history. Short history about why hydrogen and why hydrogen in trolleybuses. Public transport in Riga has developed from the very beginning as transport with electric base, and now more than half of units are trams and trolleybuses. The specifics of electric transport presuppose the need for special infrastructure, and that means that one of the ways to respond to the needs of the dynamic city was to look for solutions, how to find the solutions, how to expand this route. In 2008, trolleybuses with diesel fuel range extenders was implemented in Riga, and it was an opportunity to extend and modify trolleybus routes without investments in infrastructure. And then this experience was positive, therefore applying for hydrogen as an innovative zero-emission solution was now accepted as welcomed by the City Riga Council. The studies of possibility of introducing hydrogen into the public transport system of Riga was initially started already in 2012. At that time, and within the framework of the EU-funded project New Bus Fuel, methane gas reformation was recognized as most appropriate method for hydrogen production in Riga, and there was most suitable place for the construction of the hydrogen filling station was also identified during the project of New Bus Fuel. The knowledge and data gained as a result of New Bus Fuel project were used to prepare an application for the H2Nodes project. In 2015, an application was submitted to the H2Nodes project together with the partners from Estonia and Netherlands, and in 2016, the grant agreement was concluded. And then we could start to prepare our project, to start the project, and the extensive research work carried out in previous years allowed to launch procurement procedures immediately after the conclusion of the grant agreement. And the main procedures was design and construction of HRS, procurement of vehicles, and project management support services, considering that Riga Satiksme was the project coordinator. And HRS development began in 2016, following an agreement covering both the design and construction of the HRS. It was planned to build a complex which consisted of the production, storage, and filling of hydrogen. And there was some challenges during that, and that was the reason why the building process was longer than we expected previously. The one of that was that HRS is built as a modules from different manufacturers. For example, the production equipment was supplied by Dutch company Haiger, and storage and refueling is supplied by Nel Hydrogen from Denmark. And all that was connected with Latvian companies' help with hydrogen as well. And it took time for the individual modules from different manufacturers to function as a single system. That was one reason, and the second one, that suitability of usage in the climatic conditions of Riga and daily maintenance were two major issues as well. The station was accepted by building authority and put into operation at the end of 2019. Continuous production of filling and filling of hydrogen has been taking place since February 2020. HRS characteristics you saw already in the video, and now I can show it also in this slide. The production capacity is 300 kilograms per day. The total amount of storage is 600 kilograms, and it allows to supply at least 10 trolley buses, 5 buses, and 5 cars per day with the hydrogen. Hydrogen station provides fueling for both heavy-duty vehicles, including buses and trolley buses, from the 350-bar dispenser located in trolleybus depot. And for private transport, it's available to refuel near the hydrogen station from the 700-bar dispenser, and it is publicly available. Also, the refueling service is provided by the HRS operator at this stage. The station is intended for self-service operation and by paying for the hydrogen with a bank card. The hydrogen powered trolleybuses, as it already was mentioned, within this project produced are a unique technical solution that is the first and currently the only one in the world. And in 2016, the contract between Riga Statics and Salersbas coach was concluded, and the production of Solaris trolleybuses was started. The first trolleybus was delivered to Riga in 2018, and all of them were put into operation in March of 2020. That was a relatively long period from delivery to commissioning, but that was due to the fact that it is a completely new product, the new technologies, and it required more testing, certification, and very most important thing was testing on roads, and that was done in Riga, and that depended directly from the availability of hydrogen, and we need to wait until the hydrogen station will be available. So the technical characteristics of trolleybuses also you can see in this slide, and the length of the trolleybus is 18 meters, 0.75, and the average hydrogen consumption per 100 kilometers is 17 kilograms. After the trolleybus was delivered and the station commissioned, we could start our first experience to use that and to collect the data. The HRS is currently operating mainly to refuel all 10 hydrogen trolleybus purchased within this project. In addition, in April 2000 of this year, some private cars were refueled in small amounts, but it was in certain regularity. So in this year, 40 refuelings of private cars were performed in hydrogen station. Amount of hydrogen produced and filled in 2020 from March to December was 7,804 kilograms, and in this year, in 7 months, it was 8,600 kilograms. That means that the hydrogen station is operating under its full capacity, and which has a negative impact on the final price of the hydrogen used. About the trolleybuses drive on the longest trolleybus line, number 4 in Riga, which crosses, let's say, all the city. In the city center, the trolleybus run on the electricity from the catenary, and at the ends of the routes where the catenary is not available, the trolleybus uses the electricity generated by the fuel cell element. Daily mileage of trolleybuses on the route is approximately 300 kilometers, including 120 kilometers with autonomous hydrogen system. And about the future perspective at the end, Riga Statics plans to further develop the application of hydrogen technologies in the field of public transport, and the reason is that in order to make the already built hydrogen filling infrastructure more cost effective, and it's necessary to ensure that hydrogen station works in full capacity, and therefore the possibility of purchasing an additional hydrogen powered vehicles is currently being considered. But before that, there are some questions what is needed to solve, and what we need to keep in our mind, that the use of hydrogen technologies in public transport market is relatively small, and leads to a lack of healthy competition. For example, in the summer of this year, Riga Statics announced a market survey for hydrogen buses, and in this market survey, only one participant was who was interested to submit its proposal. And the second one is that hydrogen technology is still quite expensive option, and thus without additional financial support for the public transport service provider, it's quite economic burden. So that is all what I would tell you today, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Didis. Thanks for quite, so to speak, detailed insight. So just a reminder for attendees of this event. So anyway, later we will have a question and answer session. So, and please do not hesitate to ask your questions already in question and answer tool already now. Please submit it. Just for your information, we will also in a question and answer session, we will have a participant from Solaris Bus and Coach representative, head of Baltic States market, Roland Skatkevich. So if you will have any questions, you can address directly. So thank you very much for quite detailed insight. This definitely, I hope that there will be questions also for your side. So let me introduce now next speaker from Netherlands, Total Energies, Johan de Jong, project manager, project developer of hydrogen. Johan, the floor is yours.
So good afternoon and thank you for listening. My name is Johan de Jong. I'm indeed a project developer of hydrogen at Total Energies. And today I will be speaking on behalf of the Dutch cluster as part of the H2Nodes project. So thank you again. I will be touching two main topics. One is the hydrogen refueling infrastructure realized in Arnhem, several key lessons, and the second main topic is the demand aggregations that were done mostly by the municipality of Arnhem and the province of Gelderland in the Arnhem region. So to start with the hydrogen refueling infrastructure, basically a short introduction. Total Energies has two options to develop hydrogen stations. One is a standalone greenfield station, and the other one is to integrate it into a existing station. And along the North Sea Baltic Corridor, which is the main goal of H2Nodes, of course, is Total Energies has several stations developed, both hosted, so integrated into an existing station. And on the left, you see where the H2Nodes Arnhem station is located. And the yellow dots are two new stations that will be open soon. So now on to Arnhem. This is a picture of the station. Basically, what we see there is the infrastructure is all in the region. So there's a high gear production facility that produces hydrogen next to the refueling station location. This is transported via pipeline towards the station itself, which is then compressed to both 350 and 700 bar dispensers. We have a current capacity of around 260 kilograms a day. The station is publicly accessible. Yeah, and it's the station has been operational since the end of 2019, and the 700 bar at the end of 2020. I will share a couple of key lessons from the project, and what we see that basically the infrastructure is a success. We have had a lot of lessons along the way. Of course, this is an innovation project. And so we have learned that it's very important to be flexible and open to learn. And one example is the compressor choice. The initial compressor we chose proved not to be fit for the start-stop operation that it asks for. So we had to change this, which took a lot of effort, but well, it's successful in the end. And what we've also definitely learned is to make sure that we design the station to fit the expected mobility demand, because of the efforts of the demand aggregation, several and more vehicles came than expected, and also sooner. So what we call back-to-back refueling, so 2 cars or buses refueling after each other, really has an impact on how you design your station. So that's also an important lesson. And another important lesson is the purging of the nozzle. So the nozzle is basically the pistol that you connect to your vehicle. If it's damp or if it's wet, it can get stuck to the vehicle. So we found that it's important to purge it, which basically means you have to you blow hot air through it to dry it, and then the problem is less. And also, as an infrastructure developer, it's been very important to stay very close contact with our suppliers, but also with our customers, because they have helped us improve the project, and they are real pioneers in actually buying vehicles that run on hydrogen. So next, I would like to touch upon the demand aggregation. So aggregating vehicles in the area, which is, as I've said, I speak mostly on behalf of the Dutch cluster, so the municipality and the province. And this dates all the way back to 2016, where initially there was a temporary hydrogen as refueling station that was opened and funded by Highgear and also by the Arnhem municipality. And this made it possible to already fuel some buses and some personal vehicles. And the results of this were actually positive, which was a big reason to actually move on and take this project to another level, so to speak. And to do so, they asked themselves the question, how do we motivate personal vehicle drivers to actually go for hydrogen? And ask themselves some key questions. So, what is a logical target group? What are the characteristics of fuel cell electric vehicles that appeal? And how would we appeal to the local stakeholders? And a special 3-step approach was executed. Number one, there was a budget allocated for this, so it's a small million euros, with a target of 80 or more vehicles. And the idea behind it is that they are in the region of Arnhem, of course, in order to create demand for the station. So they chose to go for 30 kilometers range of the station. And the next step was then to publicly tender this project. So they several parties and actually consortia, they handed in some plans of ideas and how they would execute it, and then these reports were assessed, and the best idea was mainly looked at the financial management, where would they source the vehicles, because of course in these early days they're not very readily available. How would they use the HRS, etc., etc. So those were the key indicators for assessment. And basically then the H2 Drive initiative was the winner. And they dictated a strong coalition, and they pre-secured vehicles at dealers, which was a very strong point. But basically, what was also a stimulation package for people, companies or private, to drive on hydrogen, and this they received a 5-year 50% discount for hydrogen refueling at the station in Arnhem with a maximum of €3,000, but also additional services, which they named the mobility service package. So, sometimes in practice, you are not able to refill, or the car is empty. You could get a new car, or at least a temporary car, and transport of the car, things like this, which made it very appealing. And on the 11th of September 2019, there was a launch event, which had 180 attendees, and the website also was launched. And also, well, the result was 70 extra vehicles on hydrogen who received this stimulation package, and approximately 50% of this belonged to the taxi fleet for additional public transport services, and also several press releases. So there was really a lot of attention for this. So several reflecting and evaluating remarks. If you look at this project, the CEF grant provided a solid base for the infrastructure, but you can really view this as a multi-source and split finance project for both the infrastructure and the vehicle fleet, which has advantages, but it also can endanger progress. Because of course there's a lot of entities involved with their own timelines and their own preferences. So that's something of a valuable lesson. And an important remark is also that the 350 bar station, or the dispenser, of course supplies the two buses with hydrogen. And this really creates a sort of a base demand, which is helpful also for the business case. But in this case, it was temporary, so you need to think ahead also on an additional uptake of offtake of hydrogen. And yeah, at this stage, extra efforts are required for personal vehicles to also be bought by regional actors, and we've seen that by offering a stimulation package and tendering such a package, public authorities can play a key role in this. And the final remark is that we've at least during this project, we found that, of course, the personal vehicles are limited availability. So you really have to make effort to lobby or to get them to the location, or even to this country sometimes. And then several overall recommendations. I think from a general perspective, it's really what was really great about this project is that a large coalition of willing parties was formed and had a clear governance. And thanks a lot to Element Energy also for guiding this consortium along the way. This really helps with so many parties involved, and the high demand on or high priority on demand aggregation really helps also from an infrastructure provider perspective, because it creates an initial demand and well, to be honest, a better business case, and this helps.
Joachim, sorry for interrupting you. We should try to stick with the schedule. Thanks.
Thank you, Ivors. Yeah, I'm finishing off. So thank you, of course, to all of the partners involved. The demand aggregation is at the top, and all the other partners. And Digis started with the video. I would like to end with the video. So thank you all. Please ask your questions on the Q&A.
Welcome at our Total Energies hydrogen refueling station on the Westervoortse Dijk in Arnhem. We, as Total Energies in the Netherlands, are working hard to expand our network of service stations with new energies. This innovative hydrogen station perfectly fits our ambition to become net zero. With a 350 and 700 bar dispensers, both personal and heavy-duty vehicles like garbage trucks and buses can fuel at this station. The station is open 24/7 and you can pay with our Total Energy card, but also with bank, travel and a multi-tank card.
H2Nodes is an innovation project. The key to success was a coalition of willing organizations, both public and private, with the same goal. This goal was to realize a hydrogen refueling station, a hydrogen production unit, and hydrogen vehicles in the Arnhem region. With European and national support, it was possible to realize the refueling infrastructure, while regional support helped to develop the demand for hydrogen vehicles in parallel. This resulted in hydrogen buses, but also the H2 Drive initiative, which is a stimulation package for hydrogen cars. Throughout the project, we also kept in close contact with our community of customers who helped to constantly improve the project.
I'm glad to be here with you today to celebrate the successful implementation of H2Nodes project. H2Nodes is by essence the type of project which is instrumental in decarbonizing transport in Europe. Instrumental because it combines the energy of public and private operators, the commitment of local, regional and national entities, a strong sense of innovation, and it has a clear impact on European citizens. So now I see that the station is in operation since end of 19, with hydrogen production as well. So it means that public transport operators, fleet owners, individuals are already using the facility. So I must say that the European Union and SINEA, the European Climate, Infrastructure and Environment Executive Agency, who provided 50% of financial support to this project, around 14 million euro, a large part for Arnhem. I would say that it has been public funds very well invested if we consider the concrete materialization of the project. What a success for what was finally at the beginning a pilot project in 2014, and 2014 was probably a period where hydrogen was an adventure, kind of an adventure, or it still be a bit, it's true. But already this is a very nice success, and really congratulations for what has been achieved already. It's definitely a great contribution to the European Green Deal.
The world around us is changing rapidly, and therefore Total Energies is moving towards clean energies like CNG, LNG, electricity and hydrogen. The right refueling and charging infrastructure will make the transition towards sustainable mobility easier. We want to thank SINEA, the Dutch Ministry, the Province of Gelderland and the Municipality of Arnhem for the support and positive collaboration in realizing this innovative hydrogen refueling station.
So thanks for excellent presentation. Just a reminder for attendees, if you will have any questions at the end in the question and answer session, we will have also a representative of Municipality of Arnhem, Mark de Kroon, Senior Advisor for Economic Development in Arnhem, and also representative of Province of Gelderland, Mr. Gerard Tat. So anyway, we just saw only 2 case studies. Therefore, I would like to give a floor to our Estonian part, Jan Roos, representative of Parox Energy. He is Executive Project Manager. So Jan, the floor is yours.
Okay, so in Estonia, for the H2Nodes project, the goal was to establish hydrogen production and refueling in Pärnu, Estonia, alongside the E67 highway. the vehicles, as you can see from this, the vehicles were not included in the project. Unfortunately, the goal was not achieved. I will talk a little bit more about this. And what was actually achieved was in 2021, as part of the demand aggregation part of the project, we had a few small-scale demonstration projects of hydrogen refueling and vehicles in cooperation with Trado OÜ. So, and what I would say the main issue why the goals of the project were not achieved in Estonia was that basically we could not find demand for foreseeable future that would make the project economically feasible. So, so in the end, it was very simply put, it was not a business case. So, a small timeline of the events. 2014 to 2018. Not Parax Energy, but another company, Entebena, was a partner of H2Nodes, but they ran into difficulties and eventually ceased to exist. So in 2019, Parax Energy stepped in as there was reason to believe that the project could be executed in Pärnu. And then Parax Energy started to prepare the project in Pärnu. However, among other problems, most importantly, it became clear that that there was no demand and there was not going to be demand in Pärnu. So in order to make the project work, we looked at alternative options alongside the transport corridor. We did manage to finalize a site agreement in early 2021 and had preliminary equipment orders in, but as it became clear that the project will not be extended anymore, then we canceled those orders. So, but despite failing to achieve the main goal, there was some valuable lessons learned, and first of all, we have to say that hydrogen is a very hot topic right now in Estonia. A little bit more about that in the next presentation. There is a lot of interest. Another lesson learned is that when we talk about those kind of pilot projects as H2Nodes is, it is essential to have demand and supply established at the same time. The main reason Parax Energy failed to achieve the goals in Estonia was lack of demand. And when we talk about lack of demand, when we talk about potential users of hydrogen vehicles, then the main stumbling block in Estonia was that potential users of vehicles, buses, was that the users were reluctant to pay any premium compared to existing fossil technologies. They wanted cost parity to existing technology, and given the lack of national subsidies at that point of time, and given the fact that even with the established subsidies now, there is no state aid exception, then it makes the hydrogen technology to users more than twice as expensive as current fossil technology. And also what we found out is that it is really essential that there are clear national and regional policies. What is the goal in terms of environment? What are the goals in terms of where is transportation system going, etc., etc. So, in very short, that is the overview of Parax's activities. Thank you for attention. Thank you for Element Energy for supporting us all the time. Thank you for Cinea for supporting this project. It is a very, very important and nice project, even though we did not manage to fulfill the expectations.
Thank you, Jan. Now I would like to give a floor to Jānis Tam, Project Manager, City of Tartu. Jānis, may I ask you just to try to keep within schedule because we are a bit short in the time. Thank you very much. And to all attendees, please do not hesitate to submit your questions in question and answer tool. Thank you.
Yeah, hello. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jānis Tam. I'm coming from Tartu City, and as Jan previously told, that we don't have so much hydrogen installations and hydrogen use in Estonia yet, but we are moving on, and we have something already in our pocket, and we have quite good plans also to move forward with this. So yes, I'm coming from Tartu. Tartu is the second largest city in Estonia, and the regional center of South Estonia. With a population around 100,000 citizens. Why I am focusing a little bit on Tartu, because in Tartu we have quite good ecosystem and interest group of different stakeholders for implementation of hydrogen. We have a university here who have made quite a long time research on hydrogen and have their own small hydrogen production also at the moment, and who is supporting a lot of us in this way. But at first we started to gather knowledge, and also in last year we applied to be a follower of hydrogen regions, and this is some other stakeholders, some companies, this university, and with some municipalities from Estonia. And it was quite useful for us, because previously we don't had any spatial knowledge on that, how to build up hydrogen ecosystem, and also how to create or start hydrogen projects. We also became a member of European Clean Hydrogen Alliance. It's very important to be aware, to be informed, and to be on the picture as well. So, but anyway, we have some practical outcomes. I mean, some practical things on hydrogen in Tartu, in Estonia. There are some companies who are dealing with hydrogen in different angles. For example, in Skycorp in Tartu, who is dealing with hydrogen drones or power up in Tallinn, or Elcogen. So it's not. I can't say that it's not a very new thing in Estonia, but basically all these companies are dealing with some small scale at the moment with hydrogen, and we see that there are quite a lot of possibilities for future in terms of hydrogen, and this is why city is also interested to develop this area further. We had in this year some small pilot of world first hydrogen autonomous bus in Tartu. This bus is built in together with Tartu University and private company here in Estonia, and yeah, as much as we know, this is only one at the moment in the world. and this is working quite well. Then Tartu city government obtained in the spring also hydrogen bicycle, just to show the public and to introduce the public the hydrogen and its safety and its reality. I mean that in Estonia quite much there are going talks about hydrogen, but to be honest, many people don't know what it is and how it works and so on. But now they can touch with hand this hydrogen bike and to realize that it's really existing. And then Tartu City also joined this consortium some months ago. There was launched a measure from the state support measure to create full value chain project in Estonia. Tartu City with companies Alexela, Estonian Energy, and then Globus also submitted the application. I know there are already 4 applications submitted on this measure, and then in December there will be launch that award on this. The idea of this project is to create green hydrogen production here in Tartu. Also Estonian first hydrogen filling station, and also there will be bought 3 hydrogen buses and implemented in the city lines of Tartu. And the project is scaled in such ways that the usage of hydrogen will be around 25,000 kilograms per year for buses, and then production is in somewhat bigger, just to have hydrogen available in public filling station for other applications. Especially we know that there are quite big interest among private sector to buy hydrogen cars and for private use, and as we don't have at the moment hydrogen available, it's not possible, but they are waiting to have this filling station here in Tartu, in Estonia. And we hope that we will be successful and we can start with this project in 2023, and it will last over 7 years. And finally, just a small overview. What we also are planning at the moment, it's Estonian Hydrogen Valley. We have a quite good ecosystem already there. As I mentioned, some companies, smaller companies, there are some bigger companies who are interested to deploy hydrogen. We have a university, we have science parks, and airports also, which are quite strong here in terms of implementation of hydrogen, and also Tartu City in this year approved new energy and climate action plan, and where hydrogen is also mentioned, and we want to be a climate neutral city by 2030. It means that there are all good preconditions, and the more that in our area, in Nordic and in Baltics, there are yet no hydrogen valleys yet, and maybe we can be the first ones. So it's a shortly
Thank you,
main things. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Jaanus. So we are crossing the fingers that also in Estonia there will be further developments. So as long as we had shown case studies, now I would like to ask Dainis Bosch legal advisor of Treasures, just to give us an insight of strategical lessons learned on the studies on corridor part of Eastern Europe. Thank you. Dainis, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ivars. I hope you can see my screen. Greetings to everyone. It is my pleasure to participate in this Action H2Nodes final event and to present the findings on the HRS deployment plans along the North Sea TEN-T network corridor. I will focus on eastern part of the corridor and present the country reports for Poland, Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia. In preparation of this study, we looked into the alternative fuel implementation plans, already deployed stations, and the stations that are under development, as well as we looked inside the strategic documents such as climate and energy plans to see the hydrogen role in the upcoming years. When it comes down to actual status of hydrogen refueling station real-life deployment, there is a huge difference between the West and the East. If the main goal would be to drive a fuel cell vehicle all the way from Rotterdam to Tallinn or Helsinki, the first gap will occur to cross the Poland. In Poland case, the alternative fuel implementation plan was prepared and the evaluation of hydrogen was not set as mandatory for them. Currently, there is information about 8 stations that would be deployed in the near term, but only 2 of them are confirmed. One in city of Gdynia and other in the capital of Poland, city of Warsaw. In order to establish a basic cover, additional 3 stations should be deployed on the corridor, with distance ranging from 130 and 270 kilometers. This would be enough to satisfy fuel cell vehicle drivers to get across the Poland. As for the climate plan, the role of hydrogen is not so ambitious for transport sector, and it is mainly set for potential to decarbonize the gas grid. Opposite to that, the Poland hydrogen strategy foresees to build a low-emission hydrogen economy. The strategy foresees that till 2030, 2,000 fuel cell buses will be put in operation in Poland, and the refueling net that consists of 32 refueling stations will be deployed. So hopefully this strategy will be implemented. If we go forward to Lithuania, the same aspect on alternative fuel infrastructure plan arises. It did not foresee hydrogen as mandatory fuel, and it did not include it in evaluations. From experience side, it can be found that hydrogen was blended and used in CNG buses for research purposes. If you look on the map for Lithuania, only 2 HRSs would be necessary to establish the basic coverage of the core corridor. On strategical level, the climate plan does not justify the sectors of hydrogen usage. In the meantime, hydrogen energy platform was established with aim to propose the legislative initiatives and to promote the deployment of hydrogen technologies. So hopefully the impact will be heard and deployment will follow. Within the Action H2Nodes, we made an evaluation of hydrogen potential for associated partner Kaunas Autobusai. As the operator is already deploying CNG buses, we got the information that the future for 78 diesel buses was not set. Therefore, by evaluating the average mileage, the availability, it was calculated that the potential demand for Kaunas Autobusai would reach up to 1 ton of hydrogen per day if the diesel buses, the 78, would be substituted with fuel cell buses. In general, this would be a case to replicate the Action H2Nodes and the real-life deployment of stations. For Latvia, also the alternative fuel implementation plan did not include hydrogen as mandatory fuel, but the evaluation was made. Currently, yes, as you saw the video, the first station is an operator, but only the vehicle, from the vehicle side, the 10 trolleybuses are currently the only ones that are registered in Latvia. The further uprising of hydrogen availability is not clear, as the main aspect for energy and climate plan is set to align the regulations so that hydrogen would fall under research and development. One of the key aspects that could enable hydrogen bus and light duty vehicle deployment is the fact that the Clean Vehicle Directive is incorporated currently in national law. And therefore, if new vehicles will be bought, zero emission must be taken into account. On the other hand, the first round of this so-called AFIR, or Alternative Fuel Implementation Regulation, happened a couple of months ago, and our Ministry of Transport proposed to increase the range between the proposed hydrogen refueling stations from 150 kilometers to 200 or even 350 kilometers. As you can see, it can become a hot topic who would deploy a station between Latvia and Estonia. So yeah, in general, the fact that the kilometers are suggested to be increased could not help for further development of hydrogen in Latvia, and could not resolve the lack of competition for transport providers in Latvia. We also performed the mobilization activities in Latvia in order to seek further development. You can see on the map the blue dots. These are the stations that were included in this alternative fuel implementation plan. Happily, we were able to achieve interest from 2 additional transport operators. One is from Jelgava, a city operator that is willing to deploy around 100 fuel cell vehicles. In order to operate this number of vehicles, it would be necessary to produce and refuel around 1.5 tons of hydrogen. The second operator is located here in Dobele. It's Dobele's Autobusu Parks, who is participating in FCAJU co-funded project Coachified, and will demonstrate intercity fuel cell coaches, hopefully from the year 2023. And last but not least, the situation in Estonia. Their alternative fuel implementation plan included only one HRS. That's the one that was mentioned in Action H2Nodes. Unfortunately, due to lack of demand, it was not deployed. Corridor-wise, it's necessary to deploy only 2 stations in Estonia to make this basic coverage. As for strategical documents, the first Estonian hydrogen strategy was prepared but was not approved by the Parliament of Estonia, and currently the second version of it is under preparation, and hopefully it will be publicized till the end of this year. On mobilization level, we made an ambitious plan to one of the associated partners of the Action H2Nodes, Tallinna Linna Transporti, and evaluated the option for their 196 diesel buses to be substituted with fuel cell electric buses. In order for them to operate this type of fleet, it would be necessary to deploy a hydrogen production facility with a capacity of 3 tons per day. Additionally, we achieved an interest from the railway operator Operail, who is willing to deploy a fuel cell electric locomotive, and therefore this small-scale movable hydrogen refueling station, like an idea was made, and it would be able to refuel this locomotive once per day. I was lucky to hear that the hydrogen is a hot topic in Estonia currently, and hopefully, the deployment in all the eastern part of the corridor will start slowly gaining momentum. Thank you.
Thank you, Dainis. So, but anyway, just a reminder to attendees that also the study reports will be presented quite soon on the project homepage. So therefore, all this information will be available. So now floor is I'm giving floor to Sasha Scheffer, Senior Advisor for Dutch Ministry of Infrastructure and Water Management. Sasha?
Yes, thank you, Ivars, and thank you for this opportunity to speak. I will share my screen now as well. As Dines just discussed the eastern part of the North Sea Baltic Corridor, I will provide a bit more highlights on what has happened on the western part of the corridor. So I will give a short overview of the corridor itself, and then country reports on the Netherlands, Belgium, and Germany, and some implications for further rollout. A part of it has been already presented by Jochem as part of the Dutch project. So I'll keep it short, given that we are a bit behind on schedule, but perhaps some lessons might be interesting to still share with you. So overall, the project goals of H2Nodes has been said, and the scaling of the H2Node stations, in particular around the Arnhem station, has been part of our responsibility. Also, doing research on what expansion of the hydrogen refueling station network along the North Sea Baltic corridor would look like, as well as looking into the demand actually for hydrogen vehicles. So procurement via public authorities and direct local stakeholder engagement to have also private uptake of fuel cell electric vehicles. Well, as was mentioned before, but the North Sea Baltic Corridor is approximately 4,000 kilometers long. And with the previous Alternative Fuels Infrastructure Directive still is in place, and there was an indicative target to have around one hydrogen refueling station every 300 kilometers, which would mean to have at least around 14 stations on this corridor. But the new AFIR proposal, as proposed now by the European Commission in July, which still is being under negotiation with the different member states, is to have mandatory target of one hydrogen refueling station every 150 kilometers, which would then mean a doubling, or like around 30 stations at least, to cover this network. And as well as an important element, it's called H2Nodes. There's also a mandate to have at least one hydrogen refueling station at each urban node. And there will be a new TEN-T, Trans-European Network Transportation proposal as well coming up, which might change the number of nodes, which might have an impact, of course, on the North Sea Baltic corridor as well. But the numbers are not clear yet. In the Netherlands, we have, for example, only two nodes, and I think as well in the Baltic states is a limited number. So in a general conclusion, which was already mentioned by Dines, you can not drive along the North Sea Baltic corridor currently with a fuel cell vehicle. This is because there is certain parts of the corridor that are hundreds of kilometers without a hydrogen refueling station. The biggest gap are found at the moment in the eastern part of the corridor. And in the western part of the corridor, the basic coverage has to some extent already been met, especially due to a very high deployment in Germany, but Netherlands and Belgium are also picking up steam in the past couple of years. And what's relevant here is that as a country report, the Netherlands has set a clear ambition as part of its Dutch National Climate Agreement to have 50 hydrogen refueling stations by 2025, and is working currently as well on an action program to make this happen. So far, there are approximately 10 hydrogen refueling stations in place. This is numbers for 2020 because we didn't have the full numbers for 2021, but the number of was 5 in 2020, and we're almost at 10 now in 2021. You see that this is a rapid growth, and I think already around 25 stations have been financed via various subsidy instruments, either via European level, like the CEF, or via the Dutch subsidy instruments such as the DKTI, so new climate and transport technologies. So there are still challenges, but yeah, the market is growing fast at the moment. Costs still need to fall, and infrastructure needs to be developed. But several of these hurdles have been overcome so far, and the network is growing in the Netherlands. And as you can see, each of the nodes in the Netherlands, which are Amsterdam and Rotterdam, actually, as official urban nodes, have already a hydrogen fueling station. Amsterdam even has 3 stations at the moment already. And Arnhem is a very important element in the North Sea Baltic Corridor, as it is bridging the gap between Amsterdam actually and the first station in Germany, which is near I forgot the name, but near the city of Duisburg, I think, or if you want to go a bit further along the corridor, so just across the border. Without the Arnhem station, the distance would be almost 250 kilometers to drive from Amsterdam to that station. So it is a very essential part of the corridor. It is also a clear link between the different nodes going towards Belgium, that there the minimum distance is only 70 kilometers. So it's becoming more and more possible for fuel cell drivers to drive between Netherlands and Belgium, for example. Around the Arnhem station, there's upscaling at the moment. So it was the first hydrogen fueling station in the province of Gelderland, the largest province in terms of size in the Netherlands, and also the first one for the city of Arnhem. You see, in terms of hydrogen station developments, many of them are actually occurring a bit more to the west, in the Randstad area, where there's more cities, more higher population, but also around the Arnhem area, there are still the current station has been kickstarted to further generate hydrogen demand. And I think with the current forecast, this is a positive development for the region, that the supply and demand will continue to grow at a feasible pace. And for Belgium, there are several projects currently also be in development. There's only 2 stations in operation at the moment, and 5 of them are planned. But those stations are strategically located along also the North Sea Baltic Corridor, for example, also as part of the H2 Benelux program, which is another project funded by SANIA, in order to increase the coverage there as well. And I think by mid-2022, basic coverage of the network in Belgium is guaranteed, even though you see in the map here that there's a clear distinction between Flanders, where most of the stations are in development, and Walloon area on the eastern part of Belgium, where there's only 2 stations around Liège in development. So for really fully countrywide coverage, some more effort might be needed on that side of the network. Germany, as was also highlighted in the first presentation, as one of the leading countries in terms of hydrogen refueling station network, has already around 90 stations at the moment, and a larger number of hydrogen vehicles on the road, even though the number of cars per station is still fairly low at the moment, but also growing. Germany has shown a very clear commitment to hydrogen as part of its clean transition package, and having around 7 billion in support for hydrogen, and not only for transportation, to a large extent as well for industry and smaller extent the built environment, but transportation is seen also still as an important pillar for hydrogen development. So as you can see on the map here, most of the urban nodes in Germany have already an HRS in operation, and nearly all the stations are actually reachable within 150 kilometers driving of each other. So there are additional expansion plans, but it is very important for the German refueling operators as well that the fuel cell vehicle fleet is growing, has to grow in order to enable further expansion of the network. As was mentioned, there's a public procurement lessons in the Arnhem region. So the Clean Vehicle Directive and Green Public Procurement Frameworks are very important instruments. as well as the national ambitions. In Netherlands, for example, the zero emission bus ambition and the special purpose taxi ambitions. We still need showcase projects, I think, maybe not as much in the western part of the corridor, but still across the North Sea Baltic Corridor. So projects like H2Nodes, maybe in a bit more advanced form, are still necessary because many public transport operators, for example, are unfamiliar with fuel cell vehicles at the moment. There is still lack of vehicle availability in various segments, though this is growing as well. As mentioned, high costs are still an issue, but prices are dropping fast in some segments, and reliable support infrastructure, such as proper functioning HRSs, are key to make this happen. Local stakeholder engagement has been mentioned, so the government as first mover is a starting point for regional development. So having a couple buses going on, such as the Veluwe IJssel buses around Arnhem, and now in the Jive 2 project, as well as bus pilot projects around other nodes in the Netherlands, Rotterdam and Amsterdam. And experiments with demand aggregation are important, and Arnhem has been actually one of the best examples in the Netherlands in terms of demand aggregation with the H2 Drive project, as well as the H2 Benelux, which is also trying to get more hydrogen vehicles on the road. So overall conclusion on the corridor, we need at least like HRS to additionally to cover the corridor, but the new AFIR proposal will probably make that grow to even a larger number. The focus has to be on 350 bars as well as 700 bars, I think, is an important lesson. And it's important to invest in vehicle deployment rather than solely HRS. And the position of the first HRS as a showcase of technology and innovation is important in the entire value chain of the energy system, from production to the usage of the vehicles. And we need to have revisions of the alternative fuel implementation plans, like we mentioned. I think Netherlands is also very positive that this is part of the AFIR proposal from the Commission in July, and we're trying to make sure that this will also become in the final version of the regulation. So thanks a lot for your attention, and I hope you have a bit more insight on what's happened on the western part of the corridor as part of the bigger project, H2Nodes.
Thank you, Sasha. Thanks a lot. So now I would like to give a floor to our last speaker, sorry, who will provide the analysis of cost-effective routes. So Simon King from Element Energy. Simon, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Yep, I'll try and make it quick so we can get some good times for questions, although I think I'm going to probably address a fair number of questions that have already been asked in the chat. So a quick background, Element Energy are a strategic consultancy for energy, and we work in low carbon sectors, so specialize in hydrogen transport and a few other sectors that we can see as sort of critical to enabling the zero carbon transition. And we've been working with the H2Nodes project, providing support and project management for it. So as we sort of heard from the previous speakers, H2Nodes has successfully deployed 2 stations in Arnhem and Riga. In addition to that, as a purely deployment project, it also aims to be a technology showcase and provide some valuable lessons learned for future projects and to help upscale the projects, the H2Node project itself. And hence, we've produced, well, a number of partners have produced different milestone reports that are available publicly on the H2Nodes website. They're shown in the bottom right here. And I'm going to present the sort of overall findings from milestone 21, which is the summary report. They're looking at the business case for hydrogen, the hydrogen vehicles and infrastructure deployed in this project, and also sort of the technical evaluation and performance of the vehicles and infrastructure. The overall summary is that the vehicle performed well at or better than targets and equivalent metrics set by diesel vehicles. There is currently a cost premium to hydrogen, to shift to hydrogen as a zero carbon option, but this is expected to reduce significantly over the next couple of decades as primarily hydrogen price comes down due to significant upscaling and higher station utilization. So here I'm providing a quick overview of the state of the deployment in Riga, and I'll do the same for the other 2 cities as well. So in Riga, as we've mentioned, there's 1 HRS deployed and 10 trolley buses. And this is just a brief highlight of 3 key factors here that I think are worth looking at in terms of the performance evaluation. So first off is in the bottom right, you can see the teething period and its effect on the vehicle availability. So the vehicle availability has increased substantially over the course of the project, and that is sort of an initial 6 months or so, where vehicle availability is around 80%, and then it's seen to increase to close to 100% in recent months. For comparison, for a diesel vehicle of this kind, you'd expect above 90%. So it's been really promising, the sort of the recent months findings for this. And so it's important for projects of this kind to sort of manage the expectations around the teething period for fuel vehicles. In terms of what's causing those faults, you can see in the bottom left a pie chart showing the breakdown. The largest portion in terms of vehicle downtime is due to battery failures, high voltage battery on the vehicle. And so for whether you're transitioning to either battery electric or fuel cell electric options, it's important that proper maintenance procedures and spare part availability is there on site to manage this. I think it's worth highlighting that there were 0 downtime days due to fuel cell failures, which is again a big success in this project. And finally, in the top right, looking at the vehicle efficiency. So the fuel cell efficiency itself was as high as you could expect, really. At 49%, 50% is really sort of the maximum that you could get out of a PM fuel cell. And you can see the fuel consumption overlaid on top of that. So it varies, it's substantially depending on the time of year, increases by up to 40% over winter. This isn't due to a fuel cell malfunction. This is purely due to using the fuel cell to also heat the vehicle. In Riga, it gets very cold, and so it's substantial energy requirements for that. Looking at the cost evaluation. So first thing to note is that by looking at the fourth bar on the graph here in the top left, fuel cell vehicles currently do have a total cost of ownership premium to diesel and battery electric options. There's a couple of caveats that we need to mention here. One is that if you appropriately apply a clean air zone and a carbon levy to the cost of a diesel vehicle, then it's actually cost competitive hydrogen nowadays. A clean air zone to account for the issues that particulate emissions cause in intercities, and carbon levies clearly for mitigating climate change. Whilst not all cities are looking to implement the clean air zone right now, it's becoming increasingly common in Europe, and so it is a risk to any sort of operator that's looking to procure diesel vehicles over the next 10 years. And the other point here is that trolleybuses as a high mileage vehicle are highly dependent, the total cost of ownership is highly dependent on the fuel cost for hydrogen. And the fuel cost is currently high for this project and for other projects going on. However, it's expected to fall substantially, primarily due to greater scale of production. So the capex of production facilities is amortized over a greater number of kilograms of hydrogen dispensed, and also the utilization factor on the station. So as you deploy more vehicles to use a single station, then you can help to reduce this also. So you can see here the sort of illustration of as you go to the low hydrogen price, hydrogen begins to become competitive with battery electric options. Moving on to Arnhem then. So the Arnhem project was successful in deploying a large number of hydrogen vehicles due to the H2 drive scheme, primarily that deployed around 50 taxis to this point, taxis and other passenger car vehicles. And you can see in the bottom right that sort of associated increase in demand for the station, and I think it's both Arnhem and Riga. You can see there's a clear upwards trend in terms of station utilization and hydrogen dispensed. Looking at the station itself, it performed with high availability between 97 and 99%, and the primary cause of faults were compressor pump failures. In terms of the number of faults, it's worth mentioning that there was a hydraulic leak failure. There was also a significant portion of downtime in June of 2021, but this was delayed. I think it wasn't expected to cause such a big delay, but then supply chain issues from I think it's a British supplier of equipment meant that it was out for approximately 10 days. So this again highlights the sort of importance of building more stations and larger stations with inbuilt redundancy into them with multiple dispenser units. And again, looking at cost here, so this quite nicely, I think, highlights the differences between a taxi business case and a bus business case. So for taxis, the really important factor is the taxi capex. Buses are a higher mileage fleet, and they use buses for more years over their lifetime. And so the taxi capex has sort of a bigger impact there compared to the fuel. This is currently around 65,000 euros for a typical passenger car vehicle for hydrogen. And that's expected to reduce significantly over the coming years as the production capacity scales up. You get into series manufacturing of these vehicles, which really helps. For buses, on the other hand, it's, again, like with trolley buses, primarily about the fuel price and making sure that you get sufficient scale to enable lower cost hydrogen. It's also highlighted here on the top left graph, the effect of including an extra 30% of vehicles in your fleet for battery electric vehicles in the future. And so this is just an illustrative example of the effect that potentially having to procure more vehicles to operate routes that a battery electric vehicle can't operate on a single duty cycle would have on the total cost of ownership. So the reasons for that might be that the refueling time is too great, that there's not enough on depot charges, or that the distance the duty cycle requires is too high, and so another vehicle has to be procured to sort of cover the difference there. And it clearly has a large impact on the total cost of ownership evaluation, which you expect would be higher than the fuel cell in coming years. Finally then, Pärnu. Pärnu plans to deploy a hydrogen refueling station and fuel cell buses. As we've heard already, this hasn't been deployed to date because of a failure to engage with the bus public transport operator and a lack of demand in that chosen city. But it has given a large number of learnings that have been taken from the project and then helped Estonia sort of generate some momentum for hydrogen mobility. So showing the top right, just some of the press releases around this, and both the cities of Tallinn and Tartu really engaged with this topic right now. And so sort of the key learnings that we've taken out of this are to make sure you site the HRS in an appropriate city with demand contingency for other vehicle users. And then also ensuring that there's good communication between the public transport operator and the project coordinator to ensure that they're aware of the current cost of hydrogen, but also the performance benefits, as we've seen, and the long-term business case for hydrogen vehicles. So finally then, this slide provides just a quick summary of the high level of the lessons learned from this project. I think the most important ones are to build in station redundancy into the station design to ensure really high availability, to engage with the public transport operators and funding bodies to ensure that you can deploy vehicles at appropriate cost and to manage expectations around that, and then also to consider the hidden factors and costs when evaluating alternative drivetrain options, including what batteries can and can't manage with that. And also, if you need to deploy hydrogen in any vehicle in a fleet, then significantly scale is very important to hydrogen, and so you'd want to deploy, if preferably the entire depot would be hydrogen, so you get that sort of scale and utilization of the infrastructure. This project has been positioned sort of between the initial customer trials and large-scale pseudo-commercial deployments, and hopefully sort of the lessons learned from this will help inform the commercial trials that are happening and planned across Europe in the coming years. So finally, just to say thank you for your attendance. I think we're going to take questions now. There will be a public report available on this, which will be released, I think, in the run up to Christmas, as we're just going through minor tweaks at this point. But this covers in greater detail the business case evaluation, the technical evaluation, and then also the key lessons learned and how this has played into opportunities and plans for upscaling in the cities. So thank you. I'll hand back over to.
Thank you, Simon. You were exactly very good with the message. Basically, you something what I was willing to also replicate, that first of all, there will be available reports of the project. So basically analysis of corridor approach, analysis of total cost of ownership, and most of the things will be available. So therefore, some of the answers, which was already asked by attendees in the question and answer tool, so will be available in the official. So therefore, I will not touch that. But what I would like to address, Andris, there was a question about Riga Satiksme future plans. Would you be available to give some comment on that?
Thank you, Ivar. Yes, I would like to reflect on this. And regarding our future plans, right now we are on the research phase. So we are looking forward which type of transport and which type of energy is most suitable for our route network. And thank you that we have this experience with hydrogen trolleybuses. We can compare this operation with other types of transport, and we will choose in our next transport vehicle types and energy types, whether it be electricity, whether it be hydrogen. But one of our main objectives to achieve right now is to use our hydrogen refuel station at the full capacity. For that purpose, we need at least another 10 vehicles driven by hydrogen. So this is very shortly about our experience and about future plans. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Andris. So as we learned, so scale makes sense. What was also said by Simon, because this is necessary to collect this experience, and definitely scale makes sense if we are talking about new technologies and development of infrastructure. So maybe there is also some remarks for Didzis. There was also a question about usage experience and feedbacks on technical part of the vehicles. Can you comment something on that?
Maybe about the vehicles and the technical part of it may comment the Solaris representative, but what we can say at the moment, we have warranty period. Therefore, our expenses, our costs are only on the usual maintenance of the vehicle. That means all additional costs what are for the vehicles, and there was no repairs made by us at the moment, and all that provides the Solaris company as a warranty. About the station, yes, the station, we concluded already the maintenance agreement with the private company, and they are providing the daily maintenance of it, and that includes regular maintenance services as well as the repairs of equipment, and also some improvements in this station that we already made, for what we already discovered that we need to improve. Yes, shortly about that.
Okay, good. But anyway, as also was mentioned by Johan previously, so that there is, because of the weather conditions, and I remember also in Riga, there was some kind of, let's name it like that, issues with also with dispensers. Let's name it like that. That kind of projects are necessary that we can learn and collect the good and bad practice to keep continuing in the right direction for a greener future. Thank you, Didzis. Maybe what I would like to comment that on technical part, please do not hesitate after this workshop, approach us on email, and we can forward your questions directly to the right specialist who can be answering. There was also a question from audience about electrolysis equipment. Maybe I can ask Johan, you can comment. Have been then discovered this option, because you in Netherlands, that was also SMR technology used. Does you have any considerations also about electrolysis? What kind of comment you can give us?
Yes, thank you, Ivers. And of course, a very good question. Yeah, if you look at the production side of hydrogen, of course, it's important to consider where it comes from and how it is made. And in the future, preferable, I think, would be the greenest form for production. So yes, with Total Energies, we look at all forms of production. So centralized production, large scale, but also more decentralized production of hydrogen. And then there's basically two main options. You have the steam methane reforming, but you also have the electrolysis. At the moment, we don't have projects in the Netherlands that have decentralized electrolysis of hydrogen. We are making calculations of this. And yeah, what you see is, of course, a big element of this is the electricity price, which has a big influence on the price of the eventual molecules. So what I can say mostly is that we are looking into it, but have no concrete projects which have on-site electrolysis in the Netherlands at the moment.
Okay, thanks, Johan. Anyway, as that was also touched a bit, but there will be also available reports on available energy resource analysis for a region. So therefore, do not hesitate. Later on, visit our homepage of the project, and there will be available some reports also on that matter. There was also a question from the audience about heavy-duty vehicles and specifically on the trucks. That there was not considered at all. Maybe just one comment that first of all, this project was more focused on public services from very beginning. Therefore, this question was not touched. But what I know from my experience in Hydrogen Europe, that there is some of the projects what is already on economically feasible today for large truck fleets. So therefore, trucks as itself can be very good alternative for securing of demand. What you saw today, that security, the demand of security is the key how we can secure, first of all, more acceptable hydrogen price, and second, utilization of the station. So, but in that context, maybe question is to Janos. Have the Tartu considered hydrogen trucks as an option?
Hello. Yes, we have considered, and we don't have any very certain plan at the moment because city itself doesn't have any fleet. But we have discussed to include in procurement of different services. I mean, on city cleaning or other services, what we are procuring to include this option. But at first we need to have at least hydrogen available here. But anyway, yeah, this is an option, and this is under discussion. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Just from my point of view and what I know, summarizing all that what has been said, also the key point is the size of the fleet, because this is the good sample, and also that in Arnhem case, that good plan and strategic action of the municipality really made a sense that the demand was secured and stimulated. In Riga case, within the project, we have vehicles and station as a one, and of course there is necessity for next steps. And for Estonia case, I really cross my fingers that there will be continuation as the story as itself. But using opportunity, maybe I would like to ask also one of the questions from audience, which was given to Solaris representative. Okay, you guys had a very good, so to speak, trial version of the vehicle here in Riga, trolley buses with hydrogen range extenders. Is there any plans to further promote such kind of solution, or what would be your lessons as technology provider or regional manufacturer? Roland, can you repeat on that? Roland, are you here?
Yeah.
Yes.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for the invitation. We are very glad to be here and presented our product, like first in a word, the trolleybuses with the hydrogens equipment. But if we are talking about the next hour projects, at this moment we have already on our portfolio the 12-meter city bus. The next one, what I know, we already implemented the 80 meters hydrogen because many customers already asked about it. But most important for another audience, we are already thinking about the intercity buses. Very shortly.
Okay, Roland, thank you very much. And as I see, we are already also 3 minutes to end our meeting. Therefore, I hope that everyone has enjoyed this event. Thanks a lot to all the participants and of course the project partners. And as mentioned previously, so do not hesitate, please visit the project's homepage. There will be published within next weeks, there will be published all the milestone reports. And thanks once again to CINEA and the European Commission for support. And yeah, I hope that everyone has enjoyed today's webinar. Unfortunately, that was not alive, but just one quick final comment that with today weather conditions in Riga, that would be not the nicest because we have a quite below minus degrees. But anyway, I hope you had enjoyed and enjoyed the lessons learned what was shared today. Any other comments from panelists? So silence is acceptance. So with that, I would like to thank once again all the panelists, all the project partners, and all the attendees. I hope that you enjoyed our today's webinar, and we are waiting your emails and direct questions afterwards if you will have. And please do not hesitate contact project partners, because the experience what has been collected within the project is definitely worth to be shared. So thank you once again and hope to see you soon.